No one puts Jen in a corner.
Eavesdroppin.
Well, hello there.
Hi. Hiya.
Hiya. How are you?
Great. Just
Great?
great. Great.
Wonderful.
I'm in Sweden. Flag
Nice.
is flying. Flag is flying. They're very patriotic.
You've got flags flying?
Yeah, they're very,
Ooh.
very patriotic here.
Are they?
Yes, there are 2 flags that get flown here all the time. The big normal square flag, that's generally for...
With the yellow and the...
Yes, it's yellow and blue, IKEA colours.
Yeah, the IKEA flag.
Yes,
Yeah.
the IKEA flag. Yellow and blue. The normal square flag is for birthdays and the Swedish National Day.
What? What's the normal square? Oh, I see. It's a shape.
Just a normal square. Yes.
Is it square or oblong? Rectangle?
Yes, the Swiss flag is square. Sorry.
Is it?
Rectangular flag.
Okay.
Yes. The Swiss
Didn't
flag
know
is the
that.
only square flag in
Did not know.
the world.
That's amazing. Flag talk. Flag talk here on Eavesdroppin. Welcome, by the way. Straight into the flags. Red flags, lots of them here.
Oh, God, with all the bloody flag talk. Because the next one I was going to tell you about is a wimple. It's like a triangular long one just with 2 colours. That's what they do here.
2 colours.
That's what they do.
What are the colours? Any?
No, yellow and blue.
Oh, I see. So it's still part of the national flag.
No, it's a different shape flag, which you can have up. You're allowed to have it up every day of the year.
A version of.
It's a wimple, they call it.
Oh, there are rules about when you can put your flags up.
Yes.
No such rules here in the UK. Flags are going up and coming down like a whore's knickers round here.
Wow.
Sorry. And they mean an awful lot as well. I don't even want to talk about flags.
No, okay.
Makes me uncomfortable. Isn't that a shame?
Yes, because there's all different sorts of flags and they do mean
Yeah.
something else often. Yes, okay. Well, there we go. Welcome to Eavesdroppin' the podcast.
Welcome.
Where you get all your flag talk
Flag talk and more.
and more. Real life.
True crime.
True crime, supernatural.
Exactly.
Who are you?
I'm Geordie. Thank you for prompting my introduction.
And I'm Michelle, and you're an eavesdropper because you're listening in. Lucky you.
Aren't you lucky? Just imagine that you are strapping in for a long haul flight and there's 3 seats and we're in 2 of them. You're in the 3rd. Sorry about it. You just have to listen. You could find it entertaining. You might want to join in. We won't hear you. We won't let you get a word in.
No, and even if you put on those really shit airline headphones, you're still going to hear
us.
You will. You will.
Oh, yeah. And the laughter. There'll be laughter. There'll be swearing. So if you're easily offended, perhaps, I don't know, don't listen.
Yeah.
Or just try and normalize the words. They're just another word for, it's just another adjective. It's just another filling word.
It is. There's also poo talk sometimes, and we did have that a few weeks back.
People don't like that. Yes, that's true. We did have a lot of poo talk.
I've got a bit more for you.
Oh, I've got some more too, but I vowed I wouldn't repeat it on the podcast.
Oh my God, you must.
A listener got in touch and told me that after 3 weeks ago when we talked about
Poop.
you know, a poo in a wall being on Facebook and somebody being called out for it. And then, you know, everybody's pooed in a bag at some point. I think I said, well, this person has also had to poo in a doggy bag.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And carry it to the doggy bin. That's
Oh.
all I'm saying.
Oh, do you know
all I'm
what?
saying.
Well done, because the other day, I don't know what's happened to me, but in recent years, I've found that the urge, it comes on quick sometimes.
What, the poo urge?
The poo urge.
Wow. There's a lot of info there from you, Michelle. A lot of personal info.
Oh, sorry.
Coming out.
Sorry, coming out, dribbling out. Stop. No, well, we were driving to Norway and I just was like, I've got to go.
This happens for you a lot in the long distance journeys.
It's the long distance car trip.
Now, Michelle, have you been to the toilet? That's what people should say before you get in. Have you been to the loo? Go again.
But I do.
Go again.
I do.
Always go again.
I do. I don't know what's going on. It could have been the curry. Anyway, I had to do a nature poop.
Using a dock leaf as a wipe.
Well,
No?
God, no, I didn't. I had to use moss. It was in the forest. It was in the forest. Of course, I had to look because I thought I need to bloody cover this. So I got a whole lot of leaves and moss, and I have to say I was shocked.
At the height of it.
I think I lost 2 kilos. There was so much.
Michelle.
There was so much. I could not believe that came out of me. where does it hide? How can you have a kilometre of this inside you?
Kilometre?
That's a bit of an exaggeration. But where does it go?
I hope everyone's had their breakfasts and have
really
digested
the poop talk. But I feel like how can that just be inside you, all of that? How does it live?
The body is an amazing thing, Michelle. There's all sorts of things that hide within it and you never know it's there.
Yes, I know. I sent you a picture of it once.
Yes. Crayons from when you're 4.
Yes, exactly.
That you've eaten. Still there.
Yes, all those toy soldiers that your brother played with and you ate one comes out. Still in there. Sometimes comes out, sometimes not. Anyway, enough of this bloody poo talk.
Bloody hell. But talking about poo, actually, just talking about, not feeling well.
Okay.
I actually have got something to bring to the party. Before I introduce myself, have we done that?
Yes, we have.
You said that, yes.
We have.
Have you heard this new trend in luxury cruise ships where in the final few days you get trapped in your cabin while someone sprays industrial disinfectant outside your door and you get an extra free week because you're in the lockdown experience?
Oh, God, the hantavirus.
Have you heard about this?
The hantavirus. Oh.
Not just hantavirus. There's 2 cruise ships now who've recently been held in port after outbreaks of illnesses on board.
No.
One, obviously the hantavirus, which is apparently something to do with rats. And the other one is just good old-fashioned gastro.
Oh, God. This really terrifies me because Jen loves a cruise. She and I have been on 2.
You're a cruise veteran.
We had discussed a 3rd one even. I don't want to put Jen on a cruise if she's going to get gastro or worse.
Nobody puts Jen on a cruise against her will.
No one puts Jen in a corner. No, but it's terrifying.
Well, absolutely. And also, you've paid your $4,000 for an all-exclusive luxury experience only to spend day 6 quarantined with diarrhea and eating dry crackers and fighting for the loo with your travel companion. I expect those loos are quite small.
They are. They like those airplane toilets and they have a suction flush like you wouldn't believe,
Crikey. It makes me think of that film Triangle of Sadness. Did you watch that?
Not all the way through.
No. You didn't get to the point where it all went wrong after a dinner?
No.
At sea?
No.
It's visceral.
Okay.
It's a very good scene. If you've seen it, you'll remember the vomiting scene. Never ending.
Well, it reminds me potentially of the other end in that movie, Bridesmaids. There was like a girl who wasn't really fitting in so much and she thought, I don't want to go to like a normal restaurant. I want to go somewhere cool, a little bit off the beaten track. So they went to a little Mexican place and of course...
They all got sick? I don't remember.
Massive diarrhea. If you know, you know that scene.
Well,
do you know what? I'm going to pop that on the bloody Patreon. If you're not on there, why the hell not? Why the hell not are you not a patron?
Well, as Michelle always asks you, if you're enjoying this poo content, you'll get plenty more of that when you go over to Patreon.
What is it about Scat Talk?
I don't know, Michelle. I'm not sure how many others really enjoy it. The British people seem to like it. The Germans definitely love it. Americans, Canadians, not so much.
Not so much. No, not so much.
Are we being...
childish?
Are we being childish? Yes, probably. Are we being sweeping statements about countries and whether or not they can handle the poo talk or not? I have to say right now I'm not loving it. I'm not in the mood for poo talk.
Well, let's just flush that away.
Should we flush that away? Yes.
Flush it away and move on to something else. Maybe we just get stuck right into this episode because I think you're going to have a lot to add here.
Really?
Potentially.
Well, we hope so.
No pressure.
Yeah, there is a bit of pressure now, isn't there? Pressure to perform.
Yes, I know. Performance.
Anxiety.
No, don't get that.
Okay.
I've got a bit of a bitzer.
All right.
In this episode.
A bit of a bitzer.
Bit of a bitzer. Bits of this, bits of that. I read this article about genetics. And I thought, this is kind of amazing.
Is this off the back of our episode a couple of weeks ago, The Red Virgin, when we talked about eugenics? Was it eugenics?
We did talk about eugenics. I actually do have a little reference to that in this story. Pin it.
I'll pin it.
This was more about genetics. Obviously, ever since scientists mapped the human genome back in 2003, genetics has become pretty much the explanation for everything, like why people get certain diseases, or why some people struggle with mental health, or why some kids are naturally confident while others are anxious. And actually, this is the reference to the Red Virgin.
Right.
Because, when we were talking about your story, that was all down to genetics too, because even things like personality traits and political beliefs are now being linked, at least partially to genetics.
Partially because you quite rightly piped up and said with your anecdotal reference that you knew
Oh, it's a bit mean.
2 boys at school. One was really smart. The parents were really smart. The other was dumb.
I feel a bit mean about that because
Well, good.
smart isn't always academic.
True.
You know, you can be street smart.
That's right.
You can be really smart about a lot of things and maybe not know how to add up.
That's true.
Like me, maths with rocks at school. That was my level. I'm not a maths person.
Nor am I.
This whole other area of science started emerging called epigenetics.
Yes.
And we have talked a little bit about this on the podcast. And I think it makes the whole nature versus nurture debate a lot more complicated because epigenetics suggests that life experiences themselves can actually leave biological marks on your genes.
I'm sorry.
And then those
Give me a moment.
genes are then passed down to future generations.
Just you talking about leaving marks on our genes, it's making me feel like we're still talking about poo.
Skids?
Yeah.
You got it. Oh my God.
You didn't think that sentence through.
I didn't, but you've just got a filthy little
No, I haven't.
shitty bitty.
Well, you can't help.
Pooey
How can I
mind.
help it? It's not my fault. You were the one talking about your kilometres.
Oh my God. We'll get back to biological marks. How about that? I know you've talked about things like inherited trauma, which when I first heard about that, I thought it sounded ridiculous because how can you inherit trauma? It didn't happen to you. But obviously, this whole genome epigenetics has really dug into this.
Yeah.
And when you do dig into it a little bit, it's because it's not just that you inherit your grandmother's eye colour or your dad's height. This whole epigenetics is the idea that you can also inherit the biological impact of things like trauma or stress or fear or starvation or survival. So one of the studies that I found, and which apparently really shook scientists, came out of Emory University in Georgia in 2014. And it was led by a professor called Kerry Ressler. And it involved mice and cherries. Have you heard about this study?
No.
Okay. So apparently mice naturally love sweet smells, especially the smell of cherries. And when they smell cherries, the pleasure centers in their brains light up because they expect food or something rewarding.
They're going to find it no matter where it is. They're just going to chew through styrofoam, anything.
My boyfriend's golf shoes.
Yeah, they're going to chew
Nibbled.
through all of it. My entire camp bed at my caravan. They're going to chew through it.
They chew through fucking anything. Our Christmas decorations. Chewed.
Chewed. Disgusting. And all the poo-poo there as well.
Oh, the
More poo.
little black rice poops.
In the place where you just don't expect it.
No, it's just, it's not good.
upsetting.
Thing is, I don't know if you've ever seen a field mouse. They're so
Yes.
beautiful.
I know, they're gorgeous. Little tiny things.
Oh, God. Not like normal mice. Field mice in particular are so beautiful. But little fuckers, all of them, they just chew through fucking everything. But they love cherries, apparently. So the
Okay.
researchers were like, let's take advantage of that. So they got this group of mice. And I have to say, I'm really quite against animal testing.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I'm just putting that to one side here to tell this story. They started exposing these mice to a cherry smell immediately before giving them, they say mild electric shock, but they give them an electric shock. It turns out that pretty quickly the mice joined the dots and learned that the smell of cherries meant danger, i.e. they were going to get fucking shocked by an electric shock.
Aww.
So every time they smelled that cherry smell, they just froze in fear. Then those mice had babies. And the researchers, well, they did not ever expose those baby mice to any kind of electric shock.
Okay.
These baby mice never experienced anything traumatic and they were never even exposed to cherries. Then, later, those mice had babies of their own.
Probably not that much later, to be fair. They're quite quick on the old reproductive cycle, aren't they?
Exactly, and that's why you can do these experiments quite quickly. But this is where things got interesting because when researchers exposed these grandpup mice, babies,
Grandpup.
that's what they call them.
Aww.
When they exposed the grandpup mice babies to the smell of cherries, those grandpup babies reacted exactly like the mice grandparents did,
Wow.
with fear. And they were far more sensitive to the smell of cherries than normal mice, despite never having experienced any kind of electric shocks themselves.
Wow. So their genes had been turned on or off. That's the whole idea between epigenetics, isn't it?
Well, the DNA was changed, physically changed.
Absolutely changed. That's incredible, isn't it? And it does prove that trauma can be inherited. If you're the child of a concentration camp survivor, for example, that trauma lives on. Not only because, I often thought it was because you're raised by a survivor who obviously has changed with their trauma, but it's also genetic.
Well, that's what this mouse experiment is suggesting and indicating in mice. It is, I guess, not a leap, but you have to think, can this be the same as for humans? So scientists then looked at what might have physically changed in the mice grandchildren. And what they discovered was the trauma of being shocked after smelling the cherries. Like I said before, it had changed the shape of DNA in the grandfather mouse's sperm. Specifically, a gene connected to detecting cherry smells had been chemically tagged in a process called demethylation. And because of that, the brains of future generations had literally been wired differently. So normally the cherry smell pathway connected to the reward and pleasure systems in the mouse brain. But after the trauma of being zapped, the neural circuitry rerouted towards the amygdala, which is the part of the brain associated with fear and survival.
Yeah.
So basically, the mice inherited a biological warning system from an experience that they never personally lived through.
Amazing.
And so obviously scientists wanted to make sure the younger mice weren't, as you pointed out, just copying behavior from their parents. So they did IVF experiments with these mice.
Oh.
They also fostered some of the baby mice with unrelated parents, and they separated other baby mice completely from their biological families.
That makes me sad.
Yeah, it's really sad. They did all these tests again, and the results? Exactly the same.
Wowie.
So the fear response between the cherry smell equaling fear was still there.
Wow.
Then another really important thing happened. And this for me is, I don't know why no one's talking about this, because I think this is amazing. So the researchers went back to the original traumatized mice who had the cherry and the zap, and they repeatedly exposed them to the same cherry smell, but this time no electric shocks.
Oh.
And what they discovered was that over time, these original mice stopped being afraid
Oh my God.
of the cherry smell, and their brain circuitry changed back to being normal.
Neuroplasticity. That is shocking, but it also proves that we are able to learn and unlearn. Behaviors, fears, anxieties have been learned, but you can unlearn it. It feels like a mammoth job right now, but over time and practice and work, you can unlearn those behaviors that cause you to be anxious.
It's not just anxious, it's everything. Because what they found in this one specific test was that the DNA of the grandfather mice who had the
Old grandfather mouse.
the sperm altered, that DNA was no longer altered. The DNA had reverted back.
Magic.
It's not just neuroplasticity. It's not just neural pathways. The DNA
Magical.
reverted back. So that trauma was no longer passed down to the new babies that grandfather mouse was fathering. It's fucking amazing. Why is no one talking about this?
It's making my mind boggle here because now I'm thinking about things that we're talking about generally in the zeitgeist, such as, trauma, PTSD, and neurodiversity. Why is everybody neurodiverse? Well, maybe there's a reason for that. This is what you hear. I'm not saying why is everybody, but there is a lot more testing done and there's a lot more information about it and how it's passed down as well through parents. Or trauma is also another way that you can become neurodivergent. But yeah, this is really interesting. And I wonder what global trauma has done to subsequent generations.
And also things like COVID.
Yeah.
Kids don't want to leave the house anymore. I wonder why. They lived through bloody COVID. Is that going to be passed down? But back to this study, those scientists then started asking whether or not these discoveries with the mice could apply to humans.
Sure.
And there is a professor called Rachel Yehuda at Mount Sinai in New York.
We've talked about her before.
Yeah, I think she's quite famous. Well, it's because actually you know her name because she was the one that studied the Holocaust survivors that you just talked about and their children.
Right.
Her research found measurable changes in genes connected to cortisol, and cortisol is what regulates stress responses. She also found that the children of survivors did appear to carry biological signs of inherited trauma despite never experiencing the Holocaust themselves. Then, in 2021, further research looked at genes linked to immune system function. And these studies, a little bit like what you just said, suggested that trauma could weaken the protective barrier around white blood cells, allowing inflammation to interfere with the brain and nervous system. And those kinds of changes to these white blood cells with inflammation, those changes have been linked to depression, anxiety, PTSD, psychosis, and autism spectrum disorders. So there is a lot that this inherited stuff can do to you that you have no clue about.
And no control over.
No. So since then, researchers, including Kerry Ressler and Rachel Yehuda, have also studied combat veterans exposed to war zones and people suffering from PTSD, and they're now investigating whether epigenetic markers could one day help predict who might be more vulnerable to severe trauma responses before they even go to war and experience combat. I think when you start thinking about that, it changes the way you look at people because maybe someone's anxiety or their hypervigilance or their fear responses, it's not about what happened directly to them. Maybe this comes from generations before them, family members who were refugees or war survivors or famine survivors.
Exactly.
Or abuse survivors, because it's like the body remembers things that the conscious mind never experienced.
The body keeps the score.
But I think the really important part of all this is that epigenetics isn't just about trauma. Scientists also believe that positive experience, that matters as well. If you grow up with safety and stability and compassion and curiosity and connection, all of those things apparently appear capable of shaping your biology as well. So I guess the hopeful side of this research is that damage might not just be inherited, that healing is also inherited too. And I think the big takeaway is that, like the mice who pass down their fear of cherries, if you change that fear, then the DNA changes too, and it's no longer there to be passed down. So it's not a forever thing, and you can get past it, which I think is a really positive message for people who feel trapped or stuck, if it's about inherited trauma or biology.
Yeah.
Do not compute.
Well, I did some research.
AKA Googling.
Investor Googling.
But then I started thinking about if there is a connection between people who have experienced passed down and inherited trauma, is there a connection between past life regression and epigenetics?
Oh.
Experiences and traumas and successes of the generations before us can shape our DNA, and that's passed on. Could people who say that they have memories of past lives actually be somehow tapping into experiences of our ancestors?
Exactly. That is a really good point, and something that I have often thought about when we talk about these past life regressions, especially when there's children saying, and then I was a fighter pilot, and then I was ta-ta-ta-ta, and then I did this, and then I did that, and blah, 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 and I saved the day, and then I died.
Yes, exactly. And hold your horses on that, because I've got some stories coming up.
Hey!
I just feel like if you have a memory of being a peasant girl in a French village during a plague, could that somehow be a trauma of an ancestor that gets remembered somehow by you?
Rewired.
In this lifetime, kind of like...
Translated by your brain.
Like a genetic memory when you're a child, because they say often it's kids who just start learning to speak who are verbalizing these memories, around 2 years of age.
Yeah, they're not quite sure how the intellectual brain actually manages to express itself at this point. They're still learning, and they're working with the part of the brain that is instinctual.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't remember all the words for the brain bits.
No, it's okay. I do think the concept of living a past life, there's not a lot out there on this, but it was interesting to me to see, is there a connection between epigenetics and past life memories?
By Jove, Michelle, I think you've cracked it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it does seem a bit woo-woo, but could it just be
I love it.
someone's ability to tap into what might be inherited memories?
Love this. Take me there.
Like I said, there's not a lot of studies out there on this. There's questions like mine, because then I think about things like generational wealth. Rich people don't just pass on land and houses and money. Maybe they're passing on
The ability to make money.
Yes.
Well, you'd think that would be taught, wouldn't you?
Not necessarily, because you see, what do they say? The first generation makes it, the second spends it, the third fucks it up.
Right.
So it's not necessarily taught. But what if there is something in DNA that makes people rich or successful? Like, it's not just about trauma. And I know that trauma is a loaded term, because what is considered a traumatic experience for one person isn't necessarily traumatic for another person. It's not the same for everyone. And obviously the same goes for success. One person's success is another person's nightmare. I think when we look at things like epigenetics, trauma and success and all the negative and positive stuff, it's not a fits-all term. And it is tricky when you apply these ideas to humans, not just mice smelling cherries. Mm-hmm. But like anything, I think it's a scale. And I think to look at it within the context of family and patterns, you've also got to consider collective learning and culture. And maybe those things, rather than genetic, is something else. But I do think that mouse evidence is really intriguing. And like you had just talked about, people, little children who are remembering weird things.
Yeah.
I did come across this story of a boy who believed he was previously a woman called Pam.
Pam.
And this comes from a TV show, which...
Little baby Pam.
A little baby boy believing he was previously a woman called Pam. My sister is a big fan of this show. It's called The Ghost Inside My Child.
Oh, God.
It's a TV series.
Is it factual, like a documentary style? Oh, my God.
It is. And so this story comes from that series, The Ghost Inside My Child. Luke Ruhlman was only 2 years old when he began talking about someone called Pam. And at first, his mum, Erica Ruhlman, thought it was just those random things that little kids say. I'm sure you will know this as a parent. Some toddlers invent imaginary friends.
For sure.
They repeat things that they've heard somewhere along the way. But Luke kept bringing Pam up over and over and over again. And eventually, Erica was like, Luke, who's Pam? That's when Luke apparently looked at her and said, well, I was.
Oh, God. Chilling.
I read that and I was like, fuck. As a parent, what do you do with that? Except ask more questions, because
well, of course.
Your kid is basically saying, I was Pam.
Yeah.
He's a little blonde, blue-eyed 2-year-old kid.
No.
Pam's a black lady in her 30s.
I love it. Of course he's Pam.
Of course he's Pam. He goes on to then say, well, I used to be Pam, but I died and I went up to heaven.
Oh.
I saw God. So I guess maybe he's religious. He says, I saw God, and then eventually God pushed me back down and I was a baby. Wow. And you named me Luke. Immediately, Erica is like, what the fuck? Because this isn't just random toddler nonsense anymore.
It's quite an intricate, detailed story. Well, detailed if you think, going up to heaven and being pushed back down by God is an important detail. He's 2. Let's remember that.
He's 2.
He's just learned to talk.
And he is very specifically talking about being somebody else before he was born. Now, the Ruhlmans as a family, they were living in Cincinnati in Ohio at this point, and Luke had never been to Chicago. And he said, Pam's from Chicago. The family didn't know anyone called Pam. But Luke kept adding more and more and more details to his story. And he would say things like, when I was a girl, I had black hair. Mm-hmm. Or I used to have earrings like that when I was a girl. And
love it.
I know. And Erica said it was really unsettling.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It was really disturbing how matter-of-fact he was about all the things he talked about when he was talking about being Pam.
Yes.
She said he wasn't just playing pretend, and he wasn't laughing about it. He genuinely seemed to believe that he had lived another life before becoming Luke, and that life was Pam, who lived in Chicago. And then he was talking a lot about Chicago. Mind you, they'd never been to Chicago. Never. They had no connection to Chicago.
Right.
And he told his mum that he used to travel on trains there. And again, the family, never been to Chicago. He'd never even been on a train. So for the parents, they were like, what the fuck is going on? There was not really any obvious explanation for where all of this was coming from. And then came the detail that kind of changed everything for Erica, because Luke started talking about how Pam died.
Oh.
He said, Pam died in a fire.
Oh, no.
I died in a fire.
Yeah.
Erica said while Luke was describing how he died when he was Pam, she said he made this motion with his hand like somebody jumping out of a window.
Oh, no.
This is where
9/11.
it got really, well, no, this is in Ohio.
Okay.
She got freaked out because she's now got this little 2-year-old kid talking about being a black woman called Pam from Chicago who died in a fire. And I think the fact that Luke was so consistent with this story and kept adding details, and he did it apparently so earnestly, well, it kind of pushed Erica to start looking into whether, was there ever a woman called Pam who lived in Chicago and who died in a fire? She got on the internet, and eventually she found a woman called Pam Robinson who had died in 1993 during the Paxton Fire Hotel in Chicago. 19 people were killed in that fire, and Pam Robinson was one of them. And reports said she had jumped from a window when trying to escape those flames. So now Erica is like, fuck, is my son somehow describing this woman's life? And by this point, Luke is now around 5. He's been talking about Pam for 3 years. The story then starts getting media attention because it is such a bizarre story coming from such a young kid. And then that's when the media jumped on it, and the family ended up appearing on that TV series, Ghost Inside My Child, but also on TV, which it's one of those stories that local news love.
For sure.
During the filming of The Ghost Inside My Child, producers decided to do a photo test with Luke.
Oh, my God.
So they got all these different pictures of different black women, and they put it in front of him, including a picture of Pam Robinson. They didn't tell Luke which one Pam was. And they said, okay, Luke, please tell us which one's Pam. And he immediately pointed to the picture of Pam Robinson.
No way.
No hesitation. And obviously this added like a whole other layer to the story, because people watching it were thinking, okay, how does a child from Ohio identify a woman he supposedly has no connection to? So Erica then started trying to contact Pam Robinson's relatives to try and learn more about Pam's life. But Pam's family, they did not want to be a part of this.
I'm sure.
Yeah, because it's trauma for them too. Digging up stuff, and then they've got this blonde 5-year-old at this point.
Yeah.
Trying to say that he is their dead relative.
Yes, exactly.
Pam?
Yeah.
But Erica did say that she discovered a few strange similarities between Luke and Pam.
Right.
They did have a little chat to Erica.
Yeah.
About Pam, but they just didn't want to be publicly involved with this.
Sure.
And one of the big ones was music, because apparently Pam loved Stevie Wonder. I think Luke did too. And Luke was obsessed with music from that era, even from when he was a tiny kid.
Wow.
Apparently too, Pam was a piano player.
Wow.
And Erica said that right from when Luke was born, his favourite toy had been a piano.
Yes.
I mean, I think these are kind of weak connections, but,
Yeah, but they're enough to kind of back up what he's been saying. I mean, they're weak connections, but the kid's been saying, Pam, this is how old she was. She died this way. She's from here. There's her picture. He's 2.
Exactly. And now, obviously, there are skeptics who are like, it's coincidence, it's suggestion, it's confirmation bias.
Could be that. Could be suggestion, yes. Coincidence, possibly. But it's worth a look into. It's worth an episode of Ghost in My Child at the very least.
Well, they got it. And look, I do think, to be fair, children can be incredibly imaginative, and they can make up stories from tiny bits of information.
But usually based on things that they know or they've seen, something that your parents would be able to go, oh, yes, that's Andy's Big Adventures on CBeebies. No, not Pam.
No.
Maybe he's watching Sesame Street and he saw Stevie Wonder and he's fallen in love with his music. I mean, that's what happened to me.
Yeah. You just never know. I feel like there's too much here to just dismiss it, but I can't explain it either. And in fact, there's a child psychotherapist called Amy Marin who talked about that side of things and explained that, storytelling is a healthy and normal part of child development.
Yes.
And she also pointed out that sometimes parental reactions can unintentionally reinforce stories. Like, if a child notices that adults are really fascinated by what they're saying or emotional about what they're saying, they may continue to just give details.
Yeah.
I can see both sides of this because little kids absolutely do invent stuff. But I think what made this case stand out for a lot of people was the consistency, because Luke apparently kept repeating the same details about Pam for years.
Oh, wow.
There is a guy called Dr. Jim Tucker from the University of Virginia. He's an associate professor of psychiatry and neurobehavioral sciences, and he has spent years studying children who claim to remember past lives. He's investigated around 2,500 claims by children who have described memories that theoretically they shouldn't know about. He says, obviously, the important thing here is verification, because without details that match real people or real events, there's no way to separate imagination from potentially something unexplained. He said he's had a lot of cases where details do match up.
Right.
He also says kids start talking about these memories very young, at around 2 or 3 years old, and then gradually it stops as they get older. And that's exactly what happened with Luke, because Erica said that as Luke got older, the memories and references to Pam just started fading, and he talked about her less. Basically, they stopped talking about all of it by the time they're 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And that's apparently when children naturally lose most of their childhood memories, is around that age. But I do think what's really interesting about this is how specific Luke was from the beginning about Pam. Whether it's reincarnation or coincidence or imagination or something else, maybe epigenetics, I think it's kind of disturbing in many ways.
Honey joys and saveloys, hands off the fairy bread, you naughty boys.
I'm going to wrap up with another case I found. And this is the case of Cameron Macaulay in Glasgow, who, from the age of 2, starts talking about a place he says is his real home. And it's not Glasgow, but the Isle of Barra in the Outer Hebrides.
Right. That's even more bleak.
Yeah. And remote.
And remote than, say, Glasgow. So I was just thinking maybe he's feeling a little, wistful and wants to be somewhere. When you said the Isle, I thought it's going to be somewhere gorgeous, like an island off of, I don't know, Mauritius or somewhere like that.
No.
But no.
It's Barra. I've been to the Outer
Barra.
Hebrides.
Have you?
Yes. I've been to Barra, and I've been to, Skye, because everyone goes there. I've been to Berneray. I've been to loads of them. I went there on a hiking trip. So it's very bleak.
Yes.
This is not the kind of lovely island that people would talk about, as you say.
No. It's a certain kind of
Bleak beauty.
bleak beauty, exactly.
So at 2 years old, Cameron Macaulay is living in a terrace street in Glasgow with his mother, Norma, and his older brother, and he starts describing a completely different life on an island, this island, that neither he nor his family have ever been to. It's about 220 miles away from Glasgow. It's tiny, about 1,000 people on this island. It takes around 8 hours to get there by car and ferry, or an hour on a plane. There is no family connection between the Macaulays and Barra, but Cameron Macaulay keeps talking about how he used to live in a white bungalow near the beach. And he says, I'm a Barra boy, which I think is hilarious. And he talks about playing outside with a black and white dog and watching his brothers and sisters run around and sitting inside a house looking out towards the sea. And he repeatedly talks about his Barra mum and a family he says he lived with there. And at one point he says, quote, he fell through into his current life, like a transition from one place to another. And we talked just now about Luke being pushed through a hole. So I kind of thought that was interesting. And he also described planes landing on that beach, which is accurate for Barra because the island doesn't have an airport. It has a beach runway. As time goes on, the details that Cameron talks about become more and more focused. And he describes his dad and calls him Shane Robertson, who he says died in a car crash. He also describes other family members and a house layout that he says he lived in a white house with his mum and dad and 3 siblings close to the beach.
Lord.
And then the stories become too much for him. He's at preschool and he's crying and they go to pick him up and they're like, no, I want my Barra mum instead of his actual mum.
Oh, no. Imagine being spurned by your kid when he's in tears and wanting a different mum. How do you explain that to social services?
It's awful. And he says things
Yeah.
like, I need to go back to Barra because his house on the beach is there and his real family is missing him. Of course, Norma is like, this is just wild imagination. But the consistency of Cameron's story slowly starts to bring her round. And she later describes not being able to explain how he even knows the name Barra, given that there is no connection there. So eventually she goes to a psychologist and a child behavioural expert to see if there are any explanation for what's going on with Cameron, including does he just have a really vivid imagination or was he exposed to something like a TV show? But these explanations don't really resolve how he knows any of these kind of details. Enter Dr. Jim Tucker again, who we just talked about from the last one, because he's interviewed more than 2,500 children about past life.
He's the big boss of this past life
He is.
stuff.
So he flies out to Scotland to meet Cameron, and he later organises a visit to Barra with Norma and Cameron. And when they fly in, the plane lands on that beach runway, which matches Cameron's descriptions. And then when they land, Cameron reportedly turned around and said, see, I told you it was all true.
Oh, bless him.
I feel really happy to be back.
Oh, my gosh.
So once they're on that island, they begin investigating his descriptions. With the help of a local historian, they identify a white bungalow near the beach that matches his descriptions of overlooking the coast with access to the beach and surrounding little rock pools. So they go visit that property. And once they're at that house, Cameron gets really, really quiet. And he says, I know this house. And he knows this layout. He walks them through it, talks about sitting in the house with a fire. He looks at things and identifies them, talks about things that he had talked about in Glasgow that was there. Wow. There was a this there and whatever. So now the land around the house, including a gate leading down to the beach and rock pools, matches what he had talked about in Glasgow as well. Seeing that Cameron was insistent, like, this is it, this is the house, Norma contacted a genealogist called Ruth Borum, who traces genealogy and ownership records. And she confirmed that a family from Glasgow who had the surname Robertson owned that white bungalow on Barra for approximately 20 years. And remember, Cameron said his father was called Shane Robertson.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God.
Tick.
we've got some connection here. And then when they were on the island, they met up with a woman called Shane Robertson,
Oh, my gosh.
who was a member of that family. And she showed them photographs of the house and past holidays on that island.
Wow.
And Jilly did confirm that there was often a black and white sheepdog on that property.
Oh, my goodness.
Although it belonged to neighbours, not the Robertson family themselves. But here's where it doesn't have ticks. She did not recognise the name Shane Robertson.
Right.
And she has no knowledge of any account of a family member dying in a car crash.
Right, okay.
So there are parts of Cameron's story
Don't
that
tally.
ring true and other bits that don't match up. So Jim Tucker, who was interviewed for a documentary about Cameron's case, said that Cameron's reaction at the house suggested he had a really strong emotional connection to that location. But he also said that wasn't enough to be conclusive evidence of anything.
Yeah, that's true.
And he suggested that the possibility of memory-like experiences or emotional associations tied to the island could be responsible, but he didn't have any one explanation for what was going on with Cameron. So even though there were some big green ticks, like Cameron remembered things and got so many things accurate, there was no Shane and there was no car crash.
No,
So,
right.
what is this? Is
don't
it
know.
reincarnation?
Yeah.
Is it a glitch in the Matrix? Could it be epigenetics somehow, or just a kid who made up a story that matches up with a real life family?
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I think it's kind of interesting to think about.
Absolutely, is it interesting to think about, for sure. I mean, the little boy's emotional connection to the place, that really gets me.
Yeah.
I want my Barra mum.
I want my Barra mum. Oh, God, I'm a Barra boy. Yeah, it's really...
No, it hits hard.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know what these things are, if they can be explained at all. Is it reincarnation? Is it some kind of epigenetics? But yeah, no answers, people. Sorry.
Well, that's great. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks for just plopping us with a couple of entertaining stories with absolutely no answers. But that's okay. We're used to it. Sometimes there is no closure,
No.
just like it is for these people in this story. It's all conjecture. It's all theory. It's all, I don't know,
Speculation.
hypothesis and speculation.
Yep. I would say these kids have no clear memories once they've reached adulthood of...
No. Apparently they fade.
They fade, and I think they would probably be quite disturbed themselves to have those stories recounted back to them.
For sure. And they may have some memory of them. It would be interesting to go back and interview some of those children.
In adulthood.
Who, yeah, exactly. Now. Exactly. Because there's a lot of them that have been documented. I mean, I remember the story that I did about the Indian girl, which is quite something. I can't remember her name.
Yes. Shanti Devi.
Shanti Devi, that's it. That's quite shocking, that one, because she was ticking boxes left, right and centre. She knew where she hid the money. She knew where everything was in the house. She knew people's names. It was ridiculous.
And some affairs and weird
Yep.
sex stuff she shouldn't know. So,
Yes.
yeah, it was a bit weird. And if you don't know, go back and listen. I'll link to it on the Patreon.
Thank you, Michelle. Or just go search, if you can't be bothered to pop a penny in the slot, just go onto whatever platform you listen to your episodes and, I don't know, scroll back 5 years.
Type in Eavesdroppin
Yeah.
and Shanti Devi. You'll definitely find it, for sure.
5 years worth of podcasts, week in, week out. We don't give up. We don't let you down.
No.
We don't. We're always here for you.
Yes,
You can trust us.
you can. Saying that, I gotta go.
Is nature calling once again, Michelle?
Well, it's not that urgent, but it could be.
Okay. Well, in that case, let's just sign off right here, right now. I don't want any accidents on my watch. Thanks very much.
Yes, sorry about that. TMI. So I guess really there's only 3 things left to say.
Wherever you are,
Whatever you do,
just
keep
eavesdropping.
eavesdropping.
Eavesdropping.